Okay, so what's up, everyone? I'm here to review Cobra Kai season 4. I'm pretty sure many of you might have watched it by now. Such a popular show. Who wouldn't want to watch it? And this review is going to be with spoilers, but of course, you knew that already. So, my first point is about the new character they had introduced. They had also teased in the trailer for Cobra Kai season 4, and that was none other than Kenny Payne. And I didn't know who he was until I watched the season. I realized, oh, that's his name. Okay, and it's interesting how they introduced him. I felt, in my opinion, I personally felt the way they introduced him was pretty smart by making him the brother of none other than Sean Payne. And if you remember, Sean Payne was the guy from the juvie whom Robbie had a fight with, and sort of like Robbie sort of earned his respect, earned Sean Payne's respect by beating him up, of course. And now Sean Payne wants to help his brother out by taking him to Robbie, who's part of the Cobra Kai now. And because Robbie's part of Cobra Kai, he can mentor him, which we do see in the future episodes of the season, where Robbie is not just like mentoring him as a sensei, but also sort of like mentoring him in life by telling him how to be smarter than him and his brother, so that he doesn't end up in juvie the way Robbie and Sean did, and sort of like directing him in a better path than he ever was on. While it's at the same time, teaching him the moves that can help him stand up against the bullies, such as Anthony LaRusso, which we do see, him bully Sean and Kenny Payne a couple of times along with his friends. I mean, of course, Anthony LaRusso, he's not exactly like such a big bad bully. It's mostly because he's pressurized by his peers to bully him. And now Sean Payne has to Kenny Payne has to stand up against Anthony LaRusso, and we do see him also beating him up severely, which makes me wonder in high school who's going to be the real bully now, Kenny Payne or Anthony LaRusso. And I'm kind of uncertain, whether he's going to go in the right path or not. Who? Kenny Payne. And I think Anthony LaRusso is definitely going to need to have some training to catch up with Kenny Payne. And speaking of getting bullied, it's a very interesting to see how no one is really innocent. No one meaning neither is Cobra Kai, nor is Ego Fan, nor is Miyagi-Do, because there are also members from Miyagi-Do and Ego Fan who are innocent in the sense that they do bully Kenny Payne, even though like Cobra Kai may seem as the main baddie of this whole series or this season in particular. That doesn't mean that like Miyagi-Do or Ego Fang is innocent. So it's not all black and white, which I'm going to be coming to later on about how Cobra Kai isn't exactly a black and white show, and that's what makes it really interesting. But moving on, actually, it was also I found it interesting how Miguel and Sam are like learning from their opposing senseis. So as so Miguel sensei is Johnny Lawrence, Sam sensei is Daniel LaRusso. But in here we see like Miguel and Sam getting a taste of the other sensei. So in Miguel's situation, he's learning from Daniel LaRusso, and Sam is learning from Johnny Lawrence, and that's what different lessons from the lessons they were taught by their own senseis. For example, I like the car scene. I felt like it worked very well, where like Miguel is taught by Daniel LaRusso while they're driving to the party by the car with the car, and like Daniel tells Miguel how to avoid conflicts, and avoiding conflict itself is the most heroic thing to do. And that was a very interesting lesson to teach. And he also applies the lesson in the future episodes. So that was also nice to see. And similarly, even Sam LaRusso also learned from Johnny how to sometimes use aggression over defense. Sometimes even offense is also important, which is Johnny's thing, because Daniel's more towards defense, and then Johnny's more towards offense. They have different lessons, which brings me to my next point, and that is the contradiction between both these senseis, Lawrence and LaRusso. Lawrence is more of the aggressive and violent sensei. LaRusso even more of the peaceful and non-violent sensei, who really does focus on defense. And we clearly see the contradiction, not just like in their personalities, as well as the training montages, as we have seen, as we see in this season where Johnny's trying to train Daniel LaRusso his way and vice versa. And you see both of them, not really enjoying each other's training montage or training dojos. Like Daniel has to go through more intensity compared to what Johnny had to. but nonetheless, like both their dojos are respected for having their own style. But the point is they really contradict each other. And then we also have the ice hockey scene. Let's not forget that scene where Johnny Lawrence, he's the one who's initiating the fight, who initiates the fight, and Daniel LaRusso on the other hand has to fight the fight, which we see, him uh, fighting the fight. Because if you remember, this scene was a scene where he fights against all those ice hockey members, and it was really not he who started it, but Johnny Lawrence. So there's that big difference. And thanks to this clear difference between Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso, where Johnny Lawrence is the aggressive and violent kind of sensei. Daniel LaRusso is like the peaceful, and the guy the sensei who believes in mindfulness more than Johnny Lawrence. And due to the sorry, and due to these two big contradictions, or because of this contradiction between Daniel and Johnny, it makes sense why they split up. And but then two people who don't split up and continue to work together, although it's not really exactly that straightforward, were Kreese and Silver. Let's talk about them right now. So Kreese and Silver, it was very interesting how they met each other. And initially, Silver, it made sense why Silver was trying not to also join the dojo. Initially, he was quite hesitant, but then I think the main reason why he was hesitant was because he just didn't want to go down the path he previously was. He was trying to go in a more peaceful and less of a like he was just trying to be a better person basically, and I can completely understand that. And then, but then like Kreese was the one who dragged him in inside instead. And even after he gets dragged into gets dragged back to Cobra Kai due to John Kreese, he still tries to like teach new techniques of fighting, not the previous techniques. That way he kind of like tries to right his wrongdoings from the past. But then it's not. I think towards the end of the season we see like the true Terry Silver coming out, thanks to this scene where Lawrence versus Silver. Okay, first of all, this fight scene was just awesome. I had been waiting for this fight scene. I was actually hoping for this scene to sorry appear in this season, given that I knew that Silver and Lawrence were going to meet for the first time. And I really hope to see both of them fight against each other. Because both of them are really skilled at fighting. I kind of I wasn't really surprised to see Terry Silver beating up Johnny, but at the same time, I felt very very sad seeing Johnny. Like who didn't feel sad looking at Johnny getting beaten up by Terry Silver? Because I mean, come on, Johnny is not really. He's a pretty good fighter, but at the same time, seeing him get beaten up like this was kind of heartbreaking in my opinion. I really thought he could have done better, but nonetheless, it is what it is. But then the main point was how we saw Kreese. I think he tries to stop him, tries to stop Terry Silver trying to beat up Johnny Lawrence because he really cared about Johnny Lawrence. If there's anyone he cares about, that's Johnny Lawrence, which shows that he's like the better among them two. He's like the better evil in the sense that he's less evil compared to Terry Silver. Because the funny thing is, in the past three seasons of Cobra Kai, it always felt like John Kreese was the worst. But now that Terry Silver is here, things like he doesn't look that bad anymore, which is kind of interesting now because now we also have Terry Silver also taking over John Kreese's position in terms of who runs Cobra Kai. Now he's the one who's running Cobra Kai all by himself. That's because he falsely accuses John Kreese for beating up Stingray because Terry Silver was the one who beats up Stingray, but then he frames John Kreese so that that way John Kreese doesn't drag him down, because there's this dialogue where he says his weakness is Johnny Lawrence, and John Kreese is Terry Silver's weakness, so he cannot have him around. Otherwise, he's just gonna drag him down and not live up to his potential. So he had to no other choice but to frame John Kreese, which I really hope sooner or later they actually Stingray he reveals the truth by letting everyone know that it was Terry Silver who beat him up with John Kreese. Nonetheless, I'm still looking forward to how Terry Silver handles Cobra Kai in the next season, and how he gets stalked by Daniel and Chosen. Because at the end we see Daniel Chosen, but yeah, I'm still looking forward to Terry Silver's character, even though I know he's clearly not a nice person. He's probably the worst among all of them. He's even worse than John Kreese. There's no doubt about that. But I really felt bad for Stingray. I have to say that for sure. Like he just first he gets beaten up into a pulp by Terry Silver. Then he has to falsely accuse John Kreese. I really feel like they did him pretty bad in this season. I hope the next season is better for him. I'm just saying. Now, the other iconic fight scene. I mean, of course, like Johnny Lawrence, he gets beaten up by Terry Silver, and I felt bad for Johnny Lawrence getting beaten up by him by Terry Silver. But the other iconic fight scene was definitely Lawrence versus LaRusso. I mean, I actually thought the result for of this match would be quite different from the last time they fought. The last time we saw Daniel and Johnny like fight in the tournament, Daniel beat Johnny using that crane kick, and then that's how he wins the tournament. So I thought this time the result will be different. This time Johnny might like have a few moves which he never used back in the tournament, and this time he might get the upper hand. But seems like it was a draw, so there's nothing really maybe not. I wouldn't necessarily say it was disappointing, but there's really nothing so impressive about that. But nonetheless, I still like the fight scene. I still like the match between both of them. They used different kinds of moves than they used in the previous tournament, so that was also fun to watch. And last but not least, before I wrap up, I have to talk about how I'm happy to see Eli/Hawk redeem himself. Like, I mean, I liked him with the Mohawk. Not to say I didn't hate him, but he was like a total jerk. So while he was cooler, he was more confident with the Mohawk. He was a total jerk, especially to his friend Dimitri. But now, he has his confidence back, even without a Mohawk. But he's not a jerk anymore. So I'm still happy. I'm happy to see that he has totally redeemed himself. I think the future holds. I hope the future holds pretty good things for him, such as in season 5, which we will find out when season 5 comes up. Now, one thing. Now, before I truly finish this video, I have to appreciate two things, not just in Cobra Kai season 4, but also throughout the whole Cobra Kai series. That is the music, the energy they have with the rock music, like all those rock songs present throughout the whole series, and the energy it gives to the audience is just amazing. They just put every single song in the right place without any fail. Another thing they put in the right place with little to no fail for sure are the plot lines, how they manage to balance the plot lines with each other. Like, not everything's so straightforward. Everything has its own, pros and cons, and everything meaning like every single character, no single character is perfect, regardless of how perfect they may seem. And that's really the great part about Cobra Kai, how everyone has their own problems, regardless of how bad they might be. What I'm trying to say, they help us sympathize with every single character, regardless of whether they're the protagonist or the antagonist, which is pretty fantastic to see. Cobra Kai, the whole series, or should I say, the creators of Cobra Kai manage to handle the fact that they can they can manage and balance every single storyline and put them in the right place. So that's something I really have to appreciate. I think you all should also appreciate, those of you who really love the series. And just in case I don't get accused of copyright, hopefully I don't. Yeah, this is just a reference. I just put on this. Well, it's actually a review, but it's sort of a presentation, and I'm sorry if it seems that way. Nonetheless, I still try to make a review, so I hope I get credits for for that, even though it may seem like a presentation. So there you have the reference, and that's all I really have for this video. So tell me what you thought about this video and the series in the comments down below if it's possible, and see you next time. Yeah.